So our next speaker is Maryanne Steidinger, and she's the Director of Product Marketing, Operations, Execution, Asset Management, and Information Manager from Invensys Schneider Electric. So Maryanne has been with Schneider Electric Invensys since October 2008. She initially working with the Wonderware divisions as their MES, EMI Marketing Programs Manager. She now is responsible for the Wonderware and Invensys brands for enterprise asset management, operations, execution, and information software in a product marketing role. Maryanne's background includes over 25 years of industrial automation, working for leading automation providers in sales, MES, marketing, and partners alliance management, and leadership positions in marketing, business development, and partner management. A native of California, Maryanne received her BA and her MA degrees, respectively, in psychology and marketing management. She is a past year and current America's board member of Mesa International. So I'd like to take this time to welcome Maryanne to come on up to speak on Her talk will be on creating an integrated marketing campaign for impact and results. Maryanne.
Good? Okay. Well, hello everybody and happy afternoon to you. My name is Maryanne Steidinger, as Jim said, and I work for Invensys Schneider. As he said, I've been working with engineers for over 30 years, actually. It's more than 25. I just didn't want to admit it. Thank you very much. And what I've learned from them is no fluffiness. And I've also learned from them that they actually think differently than we marketing people. And I'm going to give you an example. So I was talking with an engineering guy, and I said, Dirk, I said, what do you think about today? It's a nice day, isn't it? And he says to me, the trees' leaves are green. It's like, what? So the idea is that they think differently than we do. And it's good because they help to counterbalance us. But it's always, as Rob said, it's iterative. Marketing at its nature is iterative. And if you learn nothing else from me today, I hope you take that away. Because what you think is right may be right, and maybe you'll go through your entire integrated marketing plan, and the beginning value props and the beginning positioning statements that you have hold true until the end. Other times, and especially even with the cloud and smart glance, what we learned is that when we first got started, people didn't understand the cloud, so when you talked about the benefits of cloud software for manufacturing, it was who cares and why should I care and how is it going to help me in my day-to-day job? So you learn to kind of change the value props, learn to change the message as you go along. So today what I'm going to talk about is how to create an integrated marketing campaign. And I want to tell you that what Rob presented to you was one of the integrated marketing campaigns that we worked on. And so at best, what it does is it takes all of the elements, the 4 Ps, if you will, and it brings it all together, and it provides a story for your customers. And it's a story that hopefully will resound with them, because if it doesn't, then you iterate it and make sure it does. So I decided to get a voice of customer when I first started this presentation. And this comes from one of the guys that's actually product marketing now, but he's a chemical engineer and he's worked in that industry for about 10 years prior to, I'll call it, going to the dark side. And so I asked him, I said, Joe, I'm going to be speaking to a bunch of, of marketing people who have engineers as their target market. So what do we do? Like, what would you tell us? And so what he said is, well, they're a particular bunch, and I think probably all of you can agree with that. And he said, well, visual appearance is important, content and accuracy is more important. So as a marketer, you must ensure that the content is correct before anything else. And so I think you've heard that already through certainly Britt and Leonard's presentations. It's really, and I'll call it honesty, but I'll call it straightforwardness. So it's all about making sure that you can have some fluff. The fluff is what kind of hooks them, but you have to have the underlying value props, ROI, truthfulness, and what it is that you're selling, what is your positioning, to make sure that the engineers believe you and want to go along with you through that journey of the buying cycle. So I'm going to cover today, in hopefully 25 minutes or so, what an integrated marketing campaign is, what are those foundational elements, and how do you know that you've succeeded? Because you can go through an entire plan, but if you don't know that you've succeeded, in other words, if it isn't measurable at the end of the day, if you can't show either more sales or more leads or more views or something, then you haven't succeeded. And certainly I have management that's engineering in nature, and so being measurable and showing ROI are always part of any campaign that we put together. So this is kind of an eye chart, but I'll go around the circle really quickly. So when I look at an integrated marketing campaign, and not all of the campaigns I do have all of this breadth to them. Sometimes all I want to do is do a real quick image campaign or start to get a point of thought out there. So for example, MES and food and beverage. MES is software, manufacturing software that helps people make stuff better, from raw materials through finished goods. And maybe all I want to do is position MES and food and beverage, so I'm going to do something very targeted for that, a series of ads or maybe a series of blog posts that kind of reinforce that positioning. But when you're looking at an integrated marketing campaign, you're basically looking at every single avenue that you have that can touch your readership or can touch your potential audience. So that could be, going where they go. Do they read magazines? Do they go on the web? Do they look perhaps at TV shows that are reasonable for your products? Are they reading blogs? Are they talking with others, and so maybe you want to have some chat? Do you do, again, print ads? So it's everything that's responsible or everything that can help you get that message across. And you need to get it across consistently. So consistency for an integrated marketing campaign is probably one of the more important things that you can do. Because if you have different messages for different venues, so if my website says something different than my blog, that says something different than my print ad, that's not integrated, because it confuses the audience. They don't know which one to really focus on, and it also then kind of diffuses your targets. Are you going after an engineer in food and beverage manufacturing, or IT, or operations that can use your software product? Well, you may want to have different messages for IT, operations, and engineering, but it should all combine to basically provide that same avenue for you and that same focus. And the last thing, and I'll talk about this a lot, is measurably. Because at the end of the day, if you can't measure it, you don't know if you succeeded. And you don't know if you're reaching your correct target audience. So are you getting engineers from General Mills? Am I getting operations management from Chevron? You don't know that until you can start to measure it. So driving guidance, Rob alluded to this earlier, are the 4 Ps of marketing. And the only reason I'm talking about this, I'm just going to ask you, you're all marketing people, 4 Ps, right? Yeah? Okay. So, but for those who don't, price, product, positioning, and then promotion. Some of these are more important than others depending upon, is your product new? If your product is new, then of course you're looking at more of the promotional efforts, doing that education, providing the right prices for your salespeople. But sometimes you already have existing products and you want to do an integrated marketing campaign. So there what you're looking at is perhaps the price points need to be different. So getting that feedback from the salespeople. If you use a channel, we haven't talked about going to market yet. For Invensys / Schneider Electric, we use a channel for the Wonderwear product line. But what that means is we have distributors that we need to educate, that we need to create materials for. So we're kind of one step removed from the end user. And so the materials that you create when you have a channel are slightly different than just going directly to that end user. We do both. So the ads will go to the direct user. The materials such as collateral and PowerPoints and other types of value props are used to create not only the education to the distributor, but allow them to do iterations. And so I'll use Rob's cloud as an example. When we first went out with the historian online, and we said, okay, this is great, this is a historian in the cloud, and you can use it for big data. And we went out there, and a couple of distributors used that messaging, and they came back to us and said, nobody knows what that means. Big data is one of these terms that means so much to so many people, or it means nothing to a whole bunch of people, that we need to iterate and we need to change that message. So then when they changed it to, you can do reporting on demand when you need it, on a device that you need it, it took off. But again, that's part of the iteration, but it's also part of feeding that back, so that when we did learn that, part of that integrated marketing campaign was, okay, remove that other messaging, change it to now reflect the stronger value prop of reporting. So that's part of what this 4P is. So the elements of integrated marketing plan, I can't talk strongly enough about having the right price. I've been involved in several new product introductions for Wonderwear, and we went out with a certain price. We did our market research, we looked at competition, we looked at what we thought the market could bear. I thought it was perfectly reasonable. We went out there and everybody was discounting at 30 and 40 and 50%. So you say, okay, well, obviously that didn't work. And why didn't it work? Well, a new product, working through a channel. So those kind of nuances of, okay, we need to go lower first, versus my thought, which is, hey, let's go big, let's get a lot of money, and then we can always lower the price afterwards. Nope, didn't work. So we learned and we kind of reestablished that. Understanding your product. This is another thing of working with engineers. Learn from them. So marketing people who don't have a marketing background like me. My marketing background is in psychology, which is great for understanding, at least the engineers, but not really understanding them well enough to know what it is that I need to position and what is value. So understand the product that you are selling and that you are marketing. I can't say that strongly enough. And if you don't understand it, sit down with an engineer, take him to lunch, take him to dinner, and have him explain it to you in kind of layman's terms. And I say that with a smile, but honestly, I've done that so many times in my career, because it's really important that at the end of the day, you understand how the product works and why it's important to the end user. Who are your customers? Again, Rob talked about that. Our customers are high-tech customers, people that have IT and operations backgrounds. So the value props, although I can do some soft and fluffy stuff, at the end of the day have to have some real strong value statements, have to have some ROI in them, have to show them financial benefits for using our products. I talked about developing the channels. You may have a direct sales force, and so you have some different challenges for enabling them to go to market and carrying your message consistently across. And that's, again, part of that education. And then lastly, promoting it. So Rob already talked about who your influences are, both direct and indirect. Customers cannot be discounted for being a very, very strong influence. And then lastly, the kind of soft and fluffy, wonderful stuff that we marketers like, which is that consistent look and feel. So who are you selling to? So I'm actually using Smart Glance as an example, and we had 3 different kinds of engineers. We had an engineer that was out in the field. We had a guy that was really in the back office and was using it for more reporting, and we had a guy that was more operations focused. So again, understanding who they are, taking their habits and rolling that into your value props, creating the materials that support their needs are really important when you're making an integrated or building an integrated marketing campaign. And then again, supporting their sales cycle. So we heard before with Britt and Leonard, the fact that people need different information at different cycles. Our cycles are anywhere between 9 and 18 months long. So for the MES stuff that I'm promoting, they're very long, which means that, you know, one flash is not going to do it. So my integrated marketing program says, I'm going to go out every couple of months with something to continue that momentum and continue the visibility. Whether it's a blog post, whether it's a seminar, whether it's a webinar, whether it's a local road show, it's keeping that consistency in message to, again, support the cycle and also create materials that help to support the cycle, whether it's a white paper or a piece of collateral or a customer success story. So helping them along the way make that final decision, hopefully towards you. And then preparing the channels, I talked a little bit about this before. So if you have a distributor channel, that's different than having a direct sales channel. So how do you take your materials and orient them to help them to, again, consistently and effectively carry your message forward? So it's looking at the pricing strategy iteratively, which may be or may not be. How do you package it? So for us, we sell software, so packaging is not quite as big as a deal, although we do have CD cases and we slip in brochures or flyers for new products. So we try and cross-sell and promote whenever we can. The how to sell is really important. Education is imperative. Whether it's a new product or whether it's a reformulated product that you're trying to sell, it's always about how do you educate your audience and also educate the channel and have them help you to do that education. And lastly, promotions. I can't say strongly enough about over-communicating. And this is one of the things I found, especially when you have a channel that is between you and the customer. You know that old game of operator and telephone where you tell somebody and somebody tells somebody else and somebody tells somebody else? Well, at the end of that chain of 3 or 4, 9 times out of 10 the message has changed. So doing your integrated marketing campaign, you have to make sure and create materials that help you to support that second and third party. So we have partners, for example, system integrator partners that work with the customers and also work with the distributors. So we create sales materials and promotional and marketing materials to help them to pick out the best and most salient value props in order to sell to the customer. Again, so it's looking at that entire universe that you have in order to get your products to market and how to most effectively get that message out. We talked a little bit about who can influence your sale. In an integrated marketing program, in my experience, this is forgotten 9 times out of 10. Maybe you guys are a lot better than I am. Hopefully you are. But I want to talk about these just a little bit because what we found is that third parties or partners can be really, really effective in helping you carry your message forward. And you know, we're all looking at trying to save budget, so this is a very cost-effective way of doing it. So industry analysts, whether it's ARC or whether it's Gartner or IDC or Forrester, Frost & Sullivan, there's a number of them that are covering your industry. Find out who is doing that, make friends with them, invite them to your events, educate them on your value props and on your go-to-market strategies and on what you're trying to accomplish with your integrated marketing campaign, and they will help you to carry your message forward. They'll do third-party writings for you. You can take them, you can quote them, you can buy them and repurpose them. Industry organizations. How many people know who Mesa International is? Great, so a couple. Mostly the magazine, but that's okay. Mesa, for my industry, I do industrial software, and they've been really helpful in educating and getting both end users and influencers and vendors together. So find those industry organizations where you can influence, participate, become a voice, and become a leader in those industry organizations. And honestly, it will help you. I laugh because I've been in this industry long enough and I've had several employers. So although I've been with Invensys now for 5 years, which has been wonderful, but Mesa International for me has been the source of my last 4 jobs. So the great part is that if you find an organization that really reflects your interests, not only will it provide you with really wonderful networking opportunities, but again, you get to carry your message forward. It may be a little bit softer going through these organizations, but nevertheless, it'll get carried forward. Rob already talked about Microsoft, so I won't talk about that. Certainly magazines are another really important part, so the media, both from participating in interviews as well as using them to place all your promotional activities. And lastly, we talked about this before, but I'm going to reiterate customers. Customers can become one of your best salespeople. Rob mentioned General Mills. We used the gentleman from General Mills at 2 events, at a road show and at our user group. So if you have someone that, number one, gets what it is that you're doing and is good at communicating, use them. You know, get your customers, develop them, and so that you can use them as active participants and active spokespeople for you. So again, I talked about this before, but how do you get your plan done? So you're looking at all of these different elements, whether it's the web, whether it's social media, whether it's print ads and promotion. So you need to make it measurable. Measurable could be the number of hits on your website. It could be the number of leads that you collect from a webinar. It could be the increase in just your website traffic over a couple of months of running your campaign. So it doesn't have to be just one level of measurement. Be creative, number one, but number two, when I talked about an integrated marketing campaign and knowing all of the different types of influences that you have in order to get your message across, those are the things that you should be measuring. So if you've created a white paper that helps to promote your position, how many times has that white paper been downloaded? Or how many times has a piece of collateral been downloaded? Or how many times has a partner come to you with a lead that's a result of or reinforcing this integrated marketing program that you're trying to do? So look at all of those different measurable things. Get it bought off. And what I mean by that is not only getting the checkbox, but actually getting people behind it. And people, those could be your partners, management, salespeople, distributor channel. So the way in which you can get kind of the traction is to make sure that people not only understand what it is that you're trying to do, agree with it, and then carry it forward. So that's the buy-off that I look at. It's like management is one thing that's important because they're the ones who give me the money in order to do these, and budget is, of course, very important, but it's the other channels as well. Execute while you can. Things change. An example is we've been going through our budgeting process and planning process for a couple of months. And in those couple of months, things have changed. So be flexible, be iterative, take advantage of market opportunities that come to you. So for example, Microsoft has a new CEO and they're doing a lot on Azure. We're taking advantage of that. So we're using that new dimension of Microsoft, the fact that they're focusing on mobile, in order to reflect the things that we're doing in our campaign. And of course, I've told you this a couple of times, iterate. So what makes it integrated? Well, hopefully some of the things I've talked about will show you, and I'm using this as an example. We call this the COLA campaign. And I, along with a whole bunch of other people, so not just me, we created this campaign in order to show the flexibility of using software that helps you manage change. So in the consumer packaged goods, of course, because it's consumer driven, tastes change. People like green tea flavor one day and then they go to coffee the next day. So one of the market segments that we're going after are beverage packaging. So beverage manufacturers, so people like Coke and Pepsi and et cetera, et cetera. And so what we found out for them are a couple of things. Number one, most of the cost is in the packaging operation or in the filling operation. So we want to make sure and help give them solutions that help them remove the costs, make it most effective, and if they have to respond to changes, maybe it's a formulation change, maybe their suppliers have changed their ingredients and so they've had to do some recipe management. We tell them, okay, tastes are changing, we're going to help you to respond to that change. And so we did banner ads, we did websites, we did print ads, I did landing pages, I did social media, I did sales decks, all around the when the market's tastes change, you'll be ready. So again, we've taken this, we've done it on a global basis, we've translated it, and then people have taken their own spin on it. So we now have food and beverage seminars going on in Thailand that are using an iteration of this message. But again, it's all about that profitability and managing change. I want to talk about social media for a minute, mostly because I love it. It's been one of the things that from a marketing perspective, and I'm just going to ask, are most of you using social now? Some are not? Yes, no? You all are? I love social because first of all, it's kind of free. I mean, it's really your time that it takes in order to do it, but it's a way in which to consistently and easily get a message across with heartbeat. So personally, I use Twitter, I use LinkedIn, and I have a blog, and then I also use Google+. For the industrial automation market, we have not found that Facebook, especially when marketing to engineers, has been that effective. I find that for all of the stuff that I do, and I'm pretty active, LinkedIn seems to have the most relevance for the engineering community. And I believe that's because there are groups that are available where they can talk about, what kind of PLC programming software are you doing, or what's the best type of recipe management software that you've used. So for me, LinkedIn has been really great. Twitter's been really great. We're starting to use YouTube, so all of the videos that we're creating, we're putting them on YouTube and then sharing them through our blog, through Twitter, through LinkedIn. So if I looked at social media, I could have an integrated marketing campaign just using social media because each one plays off of the other. And because with Twitter, you have to be very economical in what you place, 140 characters. But I can use LinkedIn or I can use Google+, or if I find a particularly good article or I want to talk more about the saving money for beverage filling, then I'll use my blog and I'll do a series of blog posts and I'll ask my engineering folks and I'll ask my product marketing folks and the product management folks to contribute to those blogs. So I can't say enough about how important social media has been to my integrated marketing campaign. And what you get out of it is you get a community, which is most important, right? Because what you're trying to do with integrated marketing campaign is tell a story. You're trying to tell a story of what you have, why it's important, why they should listen to you, and what you're going to get out of it by buying into this story and by following us. So social media helps you to get that community, to get dialogue, and to get thought leadership. So this is an example of Blog Central. You can see I've got a blog along with a host of other folks. Invensys has done this in order to position, again, all of the different kinds of factions and different interests. So again, have you succeeded? Well, certainly sales are one measure. But when you have a product like I have that's 9 to 18 months, you may not always be able to tell within one fiscal year if you've been successful. So again, there's a number of other things that you can do. You can look at thought leadership. You can look at the number of RFPs or RFIs that have come into your company that have reinforced, for example, the MES in food and beverage. You can look at the number of invites you have to speak. You can look at the social chatter that's around the things that you've posted or the things that you're interested in. And you can see, are you becoming a norm? In other words, are people starting to refer to your products as, oh yeah, well, is it like Wonderware MES? So I'll use an example where we're now, for MES, considered one of the leaders, and that's, I think, as a result of, number one, sales success, but number two, the fact that we've consistently, over the past 5 years, put out that thought leadership, done that integrated marketing. And then internally, how are you successful? Well, is the sales force educated? Are they selling the products? Is your ecosystem engaged? Do they care about what you care about? Is the pipeline and the mind share building? So does it become natural? So the whole idea with integrated marketing campaign is touching all of these elements. It becomes a natural process for them to include your stuff in whatever it is that they're doing. So that is my presentation. There's my email if you'd care to contact me. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was very good. So at this time, we're going to take a few questions, and then we'll take a short break and a little house cleaning before we do that. But do we have some questions for Maryanne? In the back of the room, we have a...
Can you turn his mic on?
Test? Okay, when we talked about integrated marketing, I think that in a lot of the ways we were talking about it from a customer-facing fashion, but when we're looking at it more from an internal promotion standpoint, and when we're trying to align the timing with our marketing material in relation to our roadmap, and you have to reposition or be reactive into certain changes or setbacks, but what's your recommendation for priming the channel so that your customers and your sales force, they're not pre-selling, so to speak, but they're also well informed so that you do have quote unquote an early mover's advantage from like a mind share standpoint when you have a lot of products that might clutter your sales force mind, and you're just trying to make sure that you're getting that proper mind share.
And I'm smiling when you say a lot of products that clutter their mind, because absolutely, we're all fighting for mind share within our channel. Right? For example, Wonderwear, number 1 in human-machine interface. My MES product is like a stepsister. So how do I get them to pay attention to it? So there's 2 iterations. One is, if you're doing a new product introduction, or say you're doing a product launch, and you know that you're going to do an integrated marketing campaign with this launch, you can build in all of those elements right up front. So you can build in, here's when we're releasing the product to market. Here's all of the collateral that needs to be done, the ads that need to be done. So you're basically doing like 90% of what needs to be delivered prior to actually the launch going out. You're doing all of the education before it gets out. So you've basically primed the channel, primed your salespeople to then go out there, and you're selecting people. So if you're having problems with mindshare, my suggestion is get a tiger team together of folks globally that can execute and carry it forward. And that's actually what we've done now. So we've got this super group of salespeople that we educate. They go after these deals on a global basis. The other way is that if you've got these products that have been out there for a while and now you want to do an integrated marketing campaign, you take a look at what's existing. So take a tally of what all the assets are, and then you create your pipeline and you create your timeline from there. But always have that timeline, so you know, okay, I'm going to take 2 months in order to do it. I'm going to educate the channel. I'm going to start the ads, and then I'm going to go out. So you're doing it again in stages. Did that answer your question? Thank you.
Got a question over here. While we're asking questions, would you guys fill out, in order to qualify for free box seats, jerseys, gifts, fill out the blue form? And there's some questions that will help us with the next seminar we're going to put on, online probably in the next 180 days, so if you could fill those out. We're going to take a question right here.
First, thank you very much. I really enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you.
So, we're the Avis in our business, and we're on a 3-year program now of content development and primarily using the freebies. So in year 1, we started building purely educational content that we posted up on YouTube. In year 2, we worked on subscribership, and we've built our viewers up to 80,000 a month from nothing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And this year we're working on conversion. That is, we're trying to get some people from YouTube, the social things, to our website. 2 questions. 1, are we moving too slowly? Okay. And thank you. And number 2, do you have any tips on how to convert that viewership from, say, YouTube into coming to your main website?
Well, you need to provide that link. So you obviously know that your prospects are looking at YouTube, but they're only getting kind of a single message from YouTube. So what you need to do is kind of give them multi-dimensional messages. So bring them over to a blog.
We have a blog.
Okay, bring them then from your blog, backlink it to your website so that you start to create some dedicated materials for them, or bring them to a landing page. And with the landing page, like a campaign landing page, where you can build out your messages, give them specific sales materials, give them an offer. Because with YouTube, you can't really do any offers. So you've got to kind of have that hook in order to get them engaged and start to communicate with them.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
You were talking about social media. I saw you had everything pretty much American-centric. Have you gone global? Have you explored the different vehicles for social media, such as Baidu, Youku, all that, in Asia? And what type of activities are you taking and responses are you getting?
What type of activities am I taking on all of the different...
Yes.
On all the different channels?
Yes, outside of North America.
Well, I have a couple of things. We've got Twitter accounts, for example, for all of the different regions. So all of our marketing folks from, say, Germany and Asia Pacific and Latin America all have their own accounts. My blog is global. So what they'll do is they set up their own accounts, and then we share each other's content. So one of the things, again, we talk about that consistency in message, is that we kind of leapfrog or jump and connect all of the dots. So my blog is kind of the central, my Google Plus is central, and then all of the regions are selectively picking out content that helps them in their individual markets. Because the regions are all different. The regions may not have the same needs. You know, North America doesn't have the same needs as Asia Pac. It's trying to build their market out. Latin America is trying to gain visibility. So they're kind of taking them and they're using certain parts of it. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Shane?
I agree. Very good presentation. I learned a lot from your perspective. It was really good. A big part of what we're talking about here is just the hard work to get these things done, especially when you're talking about generating content, communicating. And if you could give just a little bit of insight of your team in place on the communication side and how much of this is internally generated versus working through an agency, a communications agency, for example, or some other type of outside help.
Okay. So kind of the three big things that we do are the ads, and then kind of the social, collateral, and then white papers. Papers or other opinion pieces, we'll usually outsource those either, for example, to an analyst, or we work with Microsoft a lot, and they get third parties to help us. Like that video that Rob showed, that was a third party that helped us, but again, we fed them the content. And I guess the point is that you know your products better than anybody. So it's really up to you to choose the best venue for you. It could be that your products have enough simplicity that you could use a third party really easily. With ours, we know the markets and we know the products better than anyone, and it just doesn't make sense to spend the time to educate someone when we end up doing the work anyway.
What percentage of your ad budget is print advertising? And then you talked about the importance of measuring it. My struggle with my print is I can't measure it. How do you measure print advertising?
We measure print in a couple of different ways, and it's probably about, it depends on the campaign, but maybe 20%, sometimes 30% of the budget. It depends on what we're trying to do. That the cola ad, we heavily advertise that. We did both print as well as banner ads. Skyscrapers, all of that. So we measure it by number of impressions, number of click-throughs, because anytime we put a print ad together, we had a landing page. So they would either use that URL, we had a special URL that went to a landing page, or they would do a click-through, and then we could count the number of people that downloaded an asset that we had that we fronted with a lead form, and then we could count that as well. So 3 or 4 different measurements for advertising.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much, Maryanne.
Thank you.
Maryanne?